it's your girl Dizzy, and this is episode 4 of What You Got to Say. I want to say, hey, what's up to all my co-hosts? How y'all doing today? What's up, Tyrone Gregory?
Let's get it.
And Mr. Cabana Black.
What's up? What's up? That's that dude.
Miss Candace Reese.
What up? Time to chop it up.
And Miss Keela Mahogany.
Hey, y'all.
All right, and it's your girl Dizzy, the host. So what we're talking about today, we are discussing education and the education system. So some points that we're going to hit on today are, one, see, that's that education kicking in, helping my grammar. We're discussing whether or not we feel that our education that we received prepared us for the real world. If we feel that the current education system is preparing our children for the real world. And how do we feel U.S. education stacks up against other countries, and how do we fix it if it doesn't? So, anybody want to start?
Well,
You want to start?
you can. Go ahead.
Okay. I think I will probably have the least amount to say on this because I can only speak to, what I feel the education system has done for me. I don't have any kids, and so I wouldn't be able to speak on that part. So I'll go first and let the experts, who are really inside of the education system, dealing with it every day. I'll let y'all, kind of carry this one. But I think I wasn't prepared for the real world because they just talk about the lessons that are in books, right? They don't tell us what's going on at the bank. Okay. How do you open your checking account? How do you deal with bills? How do you get your first apartment? And then if you want to buy real estate, how do you do that? It's almost like, the things that we really need out of life, like shelter, we are not prepared to deal with that. And I think that allows the banks to take advantage of us because we're not experts on real estate. You have to have a license to do that. But actually that should be something that every person who needs to live in a house should know about. I think how to deal with your finances, how to, when you're going to college, how to decide which classes you're going to go to, or even if you're just going to go into the workforce, how do you deal with your boss if you have an issue, that isn't necessarily your fault, but you want to talk to your boss? How do you feel empowered to do that in a way that is professional? So I don't think that our high schools really prepare us for that. I definitely know that my high school did not prepare me for that. And it's like, you just have to learn on the fly. And that's when mistakes happen. You're 18, 19, 20. You don't have enough experience to do things right the first time. And sometimes those mistakes that happen at that point can be lifelong. So I think they should definitely prepare our high school, like our incoming adults. I think they should definitely prepare them better.
Okay. Tyrone?
Shit, I wanted to go first. I should have went first, but I was being a gentleman. I let her go, and she said everything I was going to damn say.
Mm-hmm.
See, they didn't prepare me for that.
Yeah.
But no, she really hit the nail on the head, though. Like, they don't teach you how to balance a checkbook, all these kind of things. They don't teach you real world, things, how to maneuver in the world. They teach you old white history of stories that don't even have anything to do with us at all, period, point blank. So it's like, how do we change that? But then how do we, I'm sitting down with my kids right now. Corona got my kids stuck in the house. I'm sitting down with my kids trying to show them, how to do these little pamphlets and packets I didn't send home, but I don't even know what the hell to do. And it's frustrating. It's like, okay, I know how to get to this answer, but when they are trying to explain to me how they got to their answer, it's nothing near what we were taught in school. It's like, that was stupid. Your teacher just really taught you something real dumb.
Right.
Because if you add 1 + 1, you get 2. Where the hell are you carrying this damn 4 for?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's just stupid. So I don't think that it's helping anymore. Like, the system is just is weird to me now.
Okay.
Just
Do you
like,
think it prepared you? What about preparing you for real life?
I had to read books myself.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I had to read for myself. Go figure it out. Because look, when it came down to graduation, I was missing credits from freshman year Where the hell is my guidance counselor?
Mm.
Yeah, you are the child.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
you
I don't
don't
think
know
this
what
will
you're
help me.
supposed to. You don't know what you're supposed to, have prepared so that you can graduate. Not, always on your mind. That is really their jobs.
Right.
I mean, I went back and still got my diploma, but
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Candace, what about you?
I definitely agree that the U.S. system of education definitely is not preparing our children for the real world. I can still remember things from when I was in school, and I give credit to my teachers because they basically beat the information into our heads. And it's all about like the school system that you're in, along with the state that you're in as well, because some states are better than others when it comes to education. Even with trying to see who stacks up other countries around the world, but just here on our own American soil, there's a vast difference between schools in one state versus schools in another state. And not saying it should all be across the board, like everyone should be like little robots and be learning the exact same thing, but there shouldn't be that vast of a difference from what I 12th grade in the state of Georgia from what someone in New Mexico learned in the 12th grade. So, like right now with our children, let's take math for instance, because any parent that is now homeschooling their children because your schools are closed, you need wine or a drink to finish getting through math. Instead of doing just, basic multiplication, we're going to set it up 12, we're going to write a 1 and a 2, and then below that, multiply it by 10, and then underline it. And then we're going to write it like that, where they're trying to get them to learn how to see it horizontally, which is okay, so you can kind of figure the numbers out, but they want you to draw an arrow from one number in the front to the back, and then draw an arrow from this one over here, and then, write your answer horizontally. And then on the other side, they want you to draw this box and then draw a plot line in the middle of it. Like, why are we doing stem plots? I'm just trying to multiply 12 times 10.
Right.
You don't know how to tell them, just add the 0 to the end and multiply. And this is a problem.
What's coming? What's coming in the future where this is the new?
Right.
I would want to know.
I can't remember what article it was, but Bill Gates was saying that, them trying to use Common Core and insert that into the school system was a failure. They should not have inserted Common Core because children are struggling. In the school system, and the school system that my kids are in is amazing. Like them folks got money. I don't know, but their classrooms are top notch. They have everything set up for what all the kids are going to need as far as like every classroom that they're in. They have those short throw projectors that's sitting right in front of the screen, and it's showing like a widescreen TV and all this type of stuff. Everything is top notch in this school.
Right.
But you have, I'm gonna say 70% of the 6th grade that's flunking math because of the system that they have set up as far as whatever this curriculum is. And then in Texas, they have this STAR test that gives everybody anxiety from like the 3rd grade on until you graduate, because if you flunk that test, you flunk that grade.
Great, yes.
You can have straight A's the whole year and have test anxiety because you just can't you can't wrap your mind around it. And so when you sit down for this standardized test and you're sitting there for 3 hours, they can't function. They can't get their mind to, okay, I got to get to number 2. So let me finish number 1. Or some kids, they'll start at number 5 and then go back up to number 1 and then skip down to number 15 and then do 16 and then go back. And so when you turn in your test and you've completed it, you've missed like 13 or 14 different questions because you were doing this number here because nothing made sense. And they'll be teaching you about oranges and then test you on apples.
Right,
So,
right.
It's totally different. Like, I remember when I was in economics, when I was in high school, they did go over balancing your checkbook. And that was something that my mom was teaching me at home anyway. And then they were going over, how do you open a checking account? And They were talking about, what was it, the stock market. They didn't dig deep into it, but they just kind of touched on it. So, you know, if that piqued your interest, maybe you would do some more research to, you know, further your own education on it. But I don't see what we learned then going on now. What I do see is them pacifying a lot of the information that we were taught, like the Trail of Tears in the school system. They've changed it in the books to make it seem as if, oh, the Indians just decided they were going to move and go to a different place. What? No. They were given blankets with disease and shit already on it. And so when you gave it to them, the majority of them, and the rest of them, you marched their ass somewhere else. No, that's not what happened. Black people didn't come here on their own. Oh, we just decided we were going to come to America. No, they already here. And the rest of us got.
It's like a nice place to be.
Damn. Oh, this is irritating. But these.
I feel you. Like I can.
Right.
I didn't think I was gonna have things to say about this topic, but maybe I do. I do have one. I wanted to say something for the parents in the room. It's part of the problem that they are teaching something that is completely different than what you've ever learned. And so the child does need help from, if you want the parent to be involved and to be able to help that child, you know, understand what happened at school today, what lesson they learned at school today, shouldn't the parent also know what happened at school today? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't you know how to do that in order to help your child? And so now we're going to have a whole generation of children who only know the bare minimum of what they're taught and may be able to help their children with what they learn if it stays the same.
Right.
I went to the school and sat down with the teacher. I'm gonna leave names out. I doubt they're even gonna watch this show, but I'm gonna leave their names out. I sat down with the teacher because my child was failing the class. I said, ma'am, I just want to know, why are you teaching this way? Because this is not how we learned it. You and I are the same age. We did not learn this way. She said, no, well, my hands are tied. Mm-hmm. I have this booklet and I have to teach it this way. I said, can I have your answer key? She said, I can't give it to you. I said, so how am I supposed to help him?
Yep.
Right.
You gonna give your child all the answers, or are you gonna try to help, like you have the answer so that you can help your child?
So
like
I can understand what you're doing.
Right.
Like I'm just gonna give him the answers. No, I want him to know doing, but I gotta know what the hell you're teaching.
Exactly.
And if you sit and look me in my face and say, I know that it doesn't make sense how I'm teaching it to him, but you can also tell me that you know that your hands are tied behind your back, and then you're gonna say, I do show them the way that we learned it every now and then. I had to walk out the room. I had to leave my wife in there. Hey,
I think it's because they have a curriculum that's kind of shoved down their throats. Each, like you were saying, each Cabana, go ahead and weigh in, because you used to be a preschool teacher, so you've kind of been in the schools a little bit. What is it that you feel? What's your input on this?
Well, I wouldn't even just say a little bit. I was teaching for 16 years. So, I've done preschool, I've done camps, I've been, after school caregiver at elementary schools. And, I just got finished watching, this interview from the author that wrote the book, Rich Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was an amazing interview because, what people fail to realize is, like, I've always loved history, period. But if you don't teach about history properly, then the setup is always going to be failure. When I was dealing with preschool, I think preschool was an amazing age to start off as a teacher because you're dealing with the fresh minds that don't deal in the solid, they deal in the abstract. So I created a form of teaching my kids through play. So I would teach them through play. So as they were playing, they were learning their numbers and their colors and addition, subtraction. I even started introducing Spanish. And when I realized that, I realized I was teaching them the things they need to be human. And one of the things that was very profound in the interview that I was watching was, unfortunately, whether people want about to say, the government and the way things are set up, they do not want us to be pioneers and leaders. They want us to be workers. They teach us to work. They teach us to work. They don't teach us to grow. They don't teach us to build. And when I say us, I mean everyone. You know, yes, we can, speak in our community, but that's another, I won't say narrow-minded point of view when you have to look at the bigger picture, because the person that I was watching the interview, he was Asian, and his father told him, just do your job because this is what you're supposed to do. He said, but what if I don't want to do this job? What if I want to be the person that owns this building? And his father didn't have anything to give him back, and that's when he started researching. And I started to realize, like, wow, they're not teaching basic banking skills and how to open up accounts. They're not teaching home economics anymore, how to just cook.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to cook. So if we're not being taught how to really live as human beings, then we're definitely not taught how to be successful business owners. And so once I realized that, I started really actually, and a lot of teachers do this. A lot of teachers that love their field, they go beyond their job.
Right.
And they start to implement things to help young people become great adults. And it's sad to say, but we're not being taught how to be human beings that can take care of ourselves. So now the pandemic is here, and that's when you have people running around going crazy over toilet paper and all these other things instead of buying food. We rushing to buy toilet paper instead of buying food, instead of looking in your own home and figuring out what is the need, what is the void, how to fill the void. And that is where education does come in, because when you have education, it pushes emotional reactions and fits, and it makes them calm all the way down because you have an understanding. And that is one thing that I realized that is the failure in our education system, is that it wasn't made for us to learn. It was made for others to earn.
Ooh.
I like that. I like that. So for me, I believe that most of the lessons that I learned in school were more so social lessons than, I learned academics, don't get me wrong, I learned academics, but I actually had a conversation this morning, with my husband, because our upbringings and education are very different. I believe that our society is memorize and regurgitate. And that's how I am. That's how I am with certain things. I will memorize it. I will regurgitate it to get the grade in the test. And if the subject doesn't interest me, I data dump. Yep. You can ask me about something, a situation, even now as a person. This is why I don't get stressed out by a whole lot of stuff, because I'll remember. If it doesn't still directly affect me, I have data dumped it because it does not serve me any purpose. And so I believe that, like I said, social, but bless you. I was also kind of, I want to say, in Tyrone Gregory's child situation. So I was an honor roll student from the time I stepped in the door. My parents didn't accept C's. It was an A or a B. And if I got a C, bless you, I got to have an A to offset it so that it's a B, right? That's how my parents taught me. There is no C's. So I never had a problem in math, but when I started algebra, the very first semester of algebra, I have never had an issue with math, never. And I could not, my brain could not, I had a brain block. I didn't understand why all of a sudden letters were introduced to math. And I asked the teacher in the classroom, I said, okay, because I'm a why learner. You tell me the why and I'm good and I got you. And I asked this teacher, I will never forget this teacher's name. Her name is Miss Hobson. I asked this teacher, I said, okay, can you tell me the why? Like, I just need to know the why of algebra so that I can get past that and then accept it. That's the way I learned. And so she basically told me, look, this is what, in front of my class at that, this is what I'm teaching you.
And that's what
I got my degree. You get yours the best way that you can.
Whoa.
That's the message in front of everybody else. This is an honor roll student being told this in front of everybody else. I was so, like, my confidence was depleted. And I came home with my first F ever. This was like 10th grade, 9th, 10th grade, ever. I was so scared to come in the house and tell my parents that I got this F until I told them the story of what we did. Because I didn't want to tell them, oh, it's the teacher's fault, because as a kid, you don't think the parent's going to believe you. And my parents did the same thing that Tyrone did. We're going to the school. We're having a conference with this teacher.
Because you know your child.
Right. And so she tried to tap dance and played a role. But what my parents ended up doing was basically saying, screw you. I'm taking my child to get tutored. You're about to get tutored. And what I loved about this tutoring center, and this is kind of going off on a tangent, but I'm going to bring it back, I promise. The tutoring center took the time first to figure out why I had the brain block. Why are you having this block? As soon as it took this woman 10 minutes to figure it out.
To understand you were a wise student?
Yes. And so she sat there and said, boom, this is why when you are trying to figure out something that you don't know what it is, this is where the X, Y, ABC comes from. And these are the steps and the rules that you got to follow to answer the problem. I think I was tutored by that place for less than a month. And then that ended up being my first job. And guess what I was? The math tutor. Because at that point, now that I understand the why and the concept, now I can tutor other people in algebra. I can tutor other people in calculus. I was tutoring other people in trig, and I never took the class yet. But I'm able to tutor because now I get it. Somebody took the time to show me the why. So one thing that I found, So one thing that I found, because of course, you know, I do research every time we get ready to come on this, is that other countries that we kind of look up to, like Europe and Asia, because of their, how well they are in education, there's two things that they have that I saw that kind of blow us out the water. One thing is that they do have a standardized, this is what you will learn, no matter where you go in this entire country, what state, whatever, this is the standard of education. So you're not gonna leave one country and go to another country in Asia or another part of Japan. Like, let's say we do Japan. You're not gonna go from city A in Japan and then leave and go to city B in Japan and have that difference in learning level, or that difference in curriculum. It's the same across the board. Now, how teachers execute it is what the difference is, but it's the same standard across the board. And it is mandatory. If the teachers see that you're not up to par, up to speed, learning the way that you should, it's mandatory that those teachers either come in early or stay after and work with you to bring you up to speed so that you can be back on the level you're supposed to be. It's not mandatory in our country.
Our teachers are not doing that.
Right. I mean, let's not say all of them, because we have some teachers that do. But the general.
Don't say the teachers either. I think it's not the teachers, it's the system.
Yeah.
Because the teachers follow the system, and that's what people have to understand, is that if the system requires the teachers to do it, then the teachers are going to do it because it's their job. And now even more what you said, Dizzy, that makes it more important is that we realize we're talking about in-house problems. Like, this is an American United States problem, because overseas, they do have so many right ways of doing things, even in freedoms of liberties and understanding. And so I think now we're getting to more of a understanding that it's our system that is failing us, particularly here, because the system doesn't allow us to learn and receive knowledge to grow. Because if it did, you would have never had to experience, and Tyrone would have never had to experience that teacher doing so. But that was because of her pride, because she didn't know an answer. So she gave you a emotional, once again, response.
And if you imagine if you were coming from the family that couldn't afford a tutor, you know what I mean? Then you would have had that teacher say that to you, your confidence blown, and who knows what that would have affected for the rest of your life. Because
Agreed.
you wouldn't have been able to go and get that extra help because of finances. You know, that's just
right.
In America, the more money you have, it's always about the money and what, you know, and it shouldn't be like that with the education. Not if we're saying that we're trying to be number one in the world. Like, we can't be number one if we don't even educate our people.
Come on now.
Right. We're far away from that. We're so far away. Well, we're nowhere near.
Realize it's big business now.
Big business, yeah.
Education in prison, big business. Schools,
but we're nowhere near where
we make money off of them. That's it.
Right.
Like back in the day when the U.S. was a world leader, like it's not. We're not at that point anymore. Like there are other countries who like, why are we looking up to the U.S.?
I even think back then it was just a narrative that they told us. Like, I don't think that it was real. Like, who looked up if we were number one in what? You know, we didn't do the research. We just believed when the news would say we are number one. And, you know, and then, but when you become an adult and you start looking, you're like, hold on.
Right. And you're looking at your peers. That's the thing that's crazy. You're looking at your peers like, let's not even say you're looking at your peers. Right now, I bet you all 5 of us can go on Facebook and find someone who clearly cannot read. You clearly did not pass English because your tense in your one post is all over the place. You have run-on sentences with no commas, semicolons, colons, periods, exclamation points, and you're writing this spelling, grammar. Now, I can understand when you're playing and joking, but this is for the whole world to see. And I'm like, you guys, or we are results of No Child Left Behind. So let me just scoot you on to the next grade level because I don't want to have 55 kids fail. I need to stay under that 50 mark or whatever the case may be. And I look at some of my peers and people that work with me or work for me, or even parents that come into my facilities. And I'm just like, how?
It's like Cabana said, it is the system, you know what I mean? Because teachers are being rewarded on standardized tests and, you know, the passing of those standardized tests. And so the schools are not going to fail anybody if they can help it. They're going to pass as many people because their paycheck is directly tied to that. You should not do that.
Yeah, they're penalized. When people are penalized.
Those tests. So if the schools do better, if your class is above margin or if your class is exceeding, you gonna get a bonus because you're the school getting funding. But as far as the ones that are falling below the threshold, be like, let's look how many bad grades he does have and see if his grades aren't as bad as we think they are, and we just kind of push him to the next level and let somebody else deal with it.
Right. Or extra credit. Bring us a couple boxes of Kleenex. We'll add 20 points to your grade. What?
Or hand sanitizer.
Or hand sanitizer. You know, and what if we took all that money that we're giving bonuses for, and if you do better, we're giving you more money on this, just to raise the salary of that teacher? What kind of impact will that have on the children? Instead of saying, oh, let's just keep all this money and then give out bonuses as they do better. No.
Right.
Start at the beginning.
And that is the key. That right there to me is the key, because at the end of the day, our whole system is predicated on what you give me. It's a shame that police officers can only get bonuses when they get tickets during Christmas and Thanksgiving. You know, the education system, lifeguard, anything you think about is always, even with Christmas, you know, Christmas is giving gifts, and that's why people give instead of like the art of giving. So I do think like our system has been one of, we are popular for entertainment, and that is why the United States in America is number one.
We are the number one entertainment.
is the biggest thing. And that is what people in other countries, like when I went overseas with Diddy, it was like they love us, but they love us for that Hollywood and that entertainment. They don't have to love us for the other stuff because they conquer that.
Yeah.
It's that one thing that we actually fantasize and make bigger than life, and we have to change that. And this is really a great conversation.
That was a good point.
So I have a question. So where do you feel, this is going to be kind of general, but I haven't figured out another way to ask it. How do you feel people should draw the line then on what the school should be teaching and what you should be learning at home? Because my view is school, teach my child the academics, reading, writing, arithmetic, do the history, do all of that stuff, whatever. There's other stuff that I'm going to teach my child specifically. Like I didn't learn how to balance a checkbook in school. I learned that from my parents. I didn't learn about, now I was, I may be aging myself, but I took home economics. So I learned how the basics of cooking and sewing and all of that. So there was some finance in there, but it wasn't credit and checkbook. But I took those classes. So where do you kind of draw the line of what you should be teaching versus what the school should be teaching? Because I think part of this education problem is the parents' expectations of the school, thinking I'm sending my child there, teach them everything because I don't want to deal. How do we figure that? How do we find that balance?
We're not telling our parents the first thing. The first thing is telling your parents that even though you're sending your child to be educated, you are the first educator of the home.
Right.
The one thing that is most important, the most important thing is if you are Black, if you are white, if you are Irish, I tell a parent, when I was an educator, I would say the first thing you need to do is educate your child on the history of your culture, of who you are.
Right.
That's the very first thing, because all children need to know who they are, period. So that when they go into school, they walk in with a confidence of who they are. Secondly, the parent, I always tell them, teach your kids about human life and the responsibilities of life so that when they grow up, they know how to be a human being in America, in the world. Because coming to us, the only thing that they're going to learn, unfortunately, because teachers are handed a syllabus and what they have to give, is a lot of times things they don't even use in their regular life. And that's scary, because we're teaching them things that is not even closely, remotely going to be used when they graduate. I have a niece that has about to get a degree in entomology. Luckily, she has a well-rounded home, but where is she gonna go? That is my concern. Until she told me, she was like, I've already figured it out. I understand this is my degree, so I'm gonna start off with here, and then I'm gonna deal with NASA. And I was like, because that's what my sister taught her at home.
Right.
To figure out how to use your degree. How to navigate your degree. But a lot of kids think that once they get a degree, they'll go directly in that field. They have to learn how to navigate their degree and how to get the best out of it. If not, they're going to get depressed. So I think it's really important for parents in the beginning to teach culture of who they are and the understanding of humanities so that they can be a great human being, and then how to navigate life. That's a home thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I totally agree with everything you just said. For starters, like with to teach your child to be a good human being, like we're trying to raise our children to be productive members of society.
Right.
Don't raise your kid to be that stereotype. So if they end up overseas, they're like, there goes the ugly American. Like, don't be that person. Like, y'all know.
Yeah, we do. We
definitely know. We all been there.
And then the other thing is with trying to teach your culture, that's going to be the hard part, especially for us, because we don't know our own culture
because it's taken away.
We're learning it because what was taught in school was the pacified version of, oh, the slaves just wanted to work for the white people. No, we were owned, we were property.
Enslaved Africans, yes.
Yes, we were enslaved. Even though the majority of us didn't make it to America, we ended up in the islands, and some of them went down to South America and, you know, all these other places. Everybody didn't, even the ones who did, you lost your language, you lost your culture, because now you've been thrown into this strange land, this strange country, and they're telling you to mend and blend and be like, all right, I'm gonna sell you for the highest number, and I'm gonna sell you for the highest number. Yeah. And you know, once all that was over and all the heartache and blood and tears and everything else that came with it, now, hey, everybody's free. Go out and get a job. Now you're a regular member of society, but you're less than the rest of us. You're not on my level, but you're less than the rest of us.
1/10 of a human being.
Oh, y'all should watch Black AF, because this
girl,
I plan on it. I heard that I should watch it.
Yes.
So
we need to come back and do a podcast about it.
But
so
that's what goes straight into education. Like,
agreed.
For the first years of your child's life, my dad always said, for the first 2 years of your kid's life, you teach them to walk and talk. And for the next 16, you teach them to sit down and shut up. You're told to sit there and listen, and you sit there, listen, and you do what you're told, and then you get on somebody's job and you sit there and you listen.
Right.
Wow.
Where do you learn to mind and get outside that box thinking that I can do this on my own, create something? Wow. So it's back to what Kabata was saying. Your parents have to that in you, but the school system is teaching you one part and your home life is teaching you something else. Right. But if you have people in the hood who only know hood mentality and they don't understand how to get outside that hood box thinking, or they don't get out of the trailer park or out of the backwoods or wherever they are, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to grasp the concept of how to be a great human being, because all you know is scrounging and scraping around to do what my mama did, and I see what my uncle's doing, and yeah, they went to jail a couple times, but they came back home, and he shot my mama a couple of dollars when he had it, and he told his baby mama gonna flip her taxes, and he went over.
Right.
It's so much that
I got you, Gregory. Look, I see you, Gregory. I see you, Gregory. I see you, Gregory. Hold on, Candace. What you want to say, Tyrone? Gregory, come on, Tyrone.
Because I'm totally agreeing with her. And going back to what you said, like, where do we draw that line? It's so hard to draw that line, because especially like from my generation down, grandmama is 35.
Wow, yeah.
Who the hell is teaching? Who the hell is teaching who? Who's teaching who? Like, it's hard. It's hard to even say where to draw that line of what is getting taught at home, because who the hell is teaching home?
Right.
Grandmama is 35. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Passion. It's passion. It's all right. Go ahead.
Grandmama's right. You feel it.
You're younger. Big mama is a thing of the past now. So it's like, you know, we're not getting those lessons. That love is not even in the homes like that no more.
Right. Right.
That line is love. That's what the line is. The line is love. That education, you were just saying about teaching your culture, right? Mm-hmm. Who taught you the culture? Mm-hmm. Big mama, sitting in the kitchen while she cooking, teaching you about your great grandmother, your great grandfather. In the front of the house while your grandfather out there cutting the grass, and then took a switch and whooped your ass because you did something you ain't supposed to be doing.
Right. But that's also education. That's also education.
It's all education, but that's the first line. That's the line that like I said, going back to the question you asked, that's where that line is. We don't have it no more. Now everybody is their best friend with their kid. Man, 4 years old, but man know every word to the baby. But he don't even know how to goddamn sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, his ABCs.
Right.
Come on.
Well, I will tell you, one of the things that I saw, because again, being able to talk to someone daily who's from another culture is actually a benefit in my life. So in Europe, and in Africa, because, you know, typically in the United States, we have a tendency when we talk about education, when people start talking about, we haven't talked about it here, but when people start talking about the issues with the education in the US, one of the things they go to immediately is, well, our lower income places, you know, lower income neighborhoods get a disproportionate amount of resources and money and funding and so on, and then this in turn leads to the decline or the lesser quality of the type of education that they receive. Now, I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm not saying that that's not true. However, if you look on a global scope, there are socioeconomic countries that are way worse than the United States' lowest socioeconomic status that are kicking our butts in education. So they have less income, less socioeconomic status, less resources than we have, but they will outperform us in science, math, reading, etc.
I don't know how though.
Any day. So one thing that I found is, and this was just a conversation with him, you know, when I just asked the question about who teaches what, how do you find that who teaches what? So in Europe and in Africa, they have a mandatory class that they take for the entire 12 years of education. And it's basically an international civics curriculum. You take it for all 12 years. I'm gonna kind of read, because I pulled a curriculum down for it, a syllabus for it. But basically, it's a civics curriculum. It's called citizenship education. It's commonly understood to include 4 main aspects: political literacy, critical thinking, analytical skills, attitudes and values, and active participation. It is mandatory. Now, all countries do not do all 12 years. I will say in Cameroon and Africa, they do all 12 years. In France, I think it was like 4 or 5 years. In other countries, but this was what our social studies was supposed to be. But it ended up turning into history class instead of it being social studies the way it's supposed to be. So with all of these things, now there are some states that do have a civics curriculum. It's not mandatory. There's no community service that comes with it. In other countries, community service comes with it. It's part of your academic profile. And at least I know in Africa, you must pass a civics exam to complete school.
Oh, wow.
Amen.
So here's something I thought was funny. And this came from a conversation that I had from my husband when we first came to the States. We were talking about, court. All right, court in the legal system. And my husband asked me, he says, so I have a question. Why do people go to court in jeans and hoodies or jeans and t-shirts? Why do I see people go to court dressed like this? And I was like, maybe for some people it's all they have. Maybe they don't have respect for that institution. I mean, you know, I just had a whole bunch of, I was like, maybes. And he asked me back then, you guys don't have civics classes in school? And I was like, what do you mean? He says, our civics classes teach you, this is what you wear when you go to this type of place. This is how you act when you go to this type of place. They would never dream of going places dressed the way that some of us do. They would never dream of acting a particular way because they're taught from the jump, this is the standard. This is how you're supposed to act. And even in a conversation with him, like I told him, he asked, you know, how much geography do your schools teach you? And again, back to the type of student I am, I know enough geography to pass that test and data dump. Are there some countries that I know where they are? Yep. Do I know where a lot of the capitals are? Yep. But every single capital of every single country? No, I don't know that. And he said, when we are taught geography, we are taught where it is, what the background is, what the terrain is, who the people are, what's the language. Those teachings and the way that they're taught allows them to have more of a global outlook when they go out into life. So that when they hear somebody say, oh, I'm from Croatia, they have a generalized knowledge of this is who you are, this is where you're from, I know who your people are, I know what your language is, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? And so I think that we miss out on that because that's not how they taught us. That's not how I was taught geography.
No.
What about y'all?
Well, I wasn't taught like that either. I can't tell you half of the states where they go or where they're supposed to be at. Now, if you put it on a piece of paper and like put it like a puzzle, I can put things together real good. But I can't name them. Tell you that right now.
Right.
You ask me where Montana is, I'm gonna be like, over there. That's about it.
I think for me as a student athlete, like the focus on education wasn't a lot during the 90s and early 2000s. I think it's a lot different now for the student athletes, which I'm very happy about. But I know for me, it was just about when's basketball practice, when's this, like, okay, getting that scholarship, and you're getting that scholarship for basketball. And so when you're in college, your number one thing is basketball. It's not focused on the academics, you know? And so, but I did want to, nope, I'm gonna stop right there because I lost my train of thought.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah,
but you know what? The thing I've noticed too is it goes back, and Tyrone knows exactly what I'm about to say. It always go back to me to balance, and I always feel like the more that we have these conversations, I realize greed has been at the forefront of the United States.
that's the American.
And even though we have some amazing, I mean, seriously amazing things, it has always been at the forefront. And even the other night, it was interesting. A young lady was speaking, who happens to be a white American, and I'm saying that because there's a point that I want to make, that she was really saying that I probably will get fired because I'm speaking my mind, and she works in the system, and she was speaking about how the system is not made for African Americans, and she was talking about how kids that were 6 and 7 were in situations where they're honor roll students, and then for a year they have bad grades, but then because we dismiss them, we find out later that they're either getting sexually abused or mental, abused, and then the system doesn't have guidance counselors and money. I want people to really realize, when it gets down to, if we can get to the core of understanding that if we don't teach people to be good human beings and have great education on how to live a real regular life, we will always have this discussion. But I think things like this and this platform, it takes the cover off, and it makes people really understand that we are the ones that make the difference. And I think we need to have parenting classes, because one of the things, I'm always looking for solutions. And what Tyrone said is very important. A lot of these grandparents are in their early 30s. Some of them are actually in their 20s. And we need to have parenting classes. We need to have mentoring classes. Because I remember we had mentorship when Boys and Girls in Club and all that kind of stuff back in the day. We need to have mentorship and parenting classes where they can come and get real dialogue and understanding. Because a lot of people are embarrassed to say that they don't know how to be a good parent, that they don't know how to be a good grandparent. It's really something simple, but when pride comes, it comes before the fall. And if we remove pride and allow people to fall and know that that is just a part of life, we can educate them in being better at being a parent, a teacher, a mother, a father. And I think that's really missing is that we're not providing, but that goes back to the grand scheme of things. It's almost like there's a mission not to provide and to keep everybody in darkness. And we have to, in our community, come out of the darkness and provide the solution.
Could it be that the resources are there? I'm just playing devil's advocate. The resources are there. It's just that those who need it the most, either one, can't find it or don't even want it. Because I will tell you this, and I think it's a little bit of both, because where I work, before and after school program, okay, all of these things that people are saying that they are lacking, we offer the classes, parenting resources. We put it on the website. We email it to them. We print it out and give it to their children to put it in their backpacks. And when we have these classes to teach them how to be a better whatever, I get onesie twosies that show up, and I got 100 and something kids in my program. So go ahead.
When are you doing it? Like, are you
evenings, dinner, and providing food?
Because
but see,
their
that's
head
the
is down like this,
military.
like a damn
That's the
ostrich, because
military.
they're
Hold on. That's everybody was like, well, then and this and that and the third. Look. Okay.
Sorry.
Make it mandatory?
Huh?
Make it mandatory. This is what you have to, if your children are here, this is a meeting that we are having with our parents. Come. This is
just like the civil, like he said about civil, the civil thing that they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. That's another thing. And then I was saying though, with the military, you provide, but a lot of the problems are not in that area.
Well, let me also do another little devil's advocate, because it's not just military based, because you go to almost any Boys and Girls Club of America in any corner of any state, rural, urban, suburban community. That's where we are getting our curriculum from.
But most of them are shut down in urban areas, because I work for the Boys and Girls Club, and the ones in Alta Vista, Newport News, down the bottom are getting shut down, and the ones in Yorktown and the up areas are open. It is literally like it's crazy, especially for me to say it, but it's so crazy to see that there's a deliberate motive of stopping education in areas that need it the most. So I feel like people, I feel like people like us need to do it.
I said, this has been going on from the beginning of America. Capitalism cannot work without a working class, without a poor class that feels like the only way that they're going to survive is to work for these corporations. That's why they're trying to get us back to work so bad, because their bottom lines are being affected, but they're not worried about the people who actually have to go into those businesses. They are the ones who are at risk for their with their health. They have to work. And so they probably don't have insurance. And if they do have insurance, they can't take off work to be able to stay home and be sick, because they have to feed their children. But the millionaires are the ones who, they have money. They're chilling. They might even be on on their private island. However, their workers don't have enough money to survive. But they need to get back out into this COVID-19, and then they're gonna I've been doing.
Girl, no, it's okay. Because
understand it.
Yes, I was just getting ready to do that whole little rap, because I know that's the last piece that we wanted to hit. And Candace actually brought it to our attention last week. Candace, so tell us about what's happening in Texas, the stuff that you sent us about the sequence of events and timing that just doesn't make sense with COVID-19 in schools and workers.
Here's the crazy part. It's not even a sequence of events. This happened within the same press conference. Governor Abbott in the state of Texas issued a mandatory stating that schools will no longer be open for the remainder of this school year, that the kids are going to stay at home and will continue using Google Classroom and the the instructors and all the teachers and everybody are just going to be sending out the curriculum to the students because you won't be going back into the school building.
Right.
However, the same breath, this dude said, we're going to basically do a soft open because I want to reopen the state. Okay, so you want to reopen the state of Texas when? He's like, oh, next week. What do you mean next week? And you just closed schools for the remainder of the school year. So now all these people that were at home with their children, teaching them and feeding them and clothing them, that now you're going to send them back to work, but these kids are still at home. And most daycare centers are closed except for the essential personnel that have to work. And the kids who don't have meals that are at home, they were getting meals from like some teachers, and some schools were able to kind of deliver meals, or those parents can kind of swing by the school and pick up a meal and keep going and go back home so that they can feed their kids or have assistance to do so. But that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Please help me make it make sense. Like, you want schools closed for the remainder of the school year, which is okay because you want your children safe. You want students safe,
right?
Because kids can't do so much to protect themselves outside of just common sense.
No
kids
distancing children.
Don't see the virus and know, like, all right, I need to wash my hands all the time. But like, yeah, you can tell them, well, go wash your hands, but they'll go in there and run the water and stand in front of it and then cut it off.
They sure will.
You know how kids do sometimes, but sticky fingers. But in the same breath, you want all the workers to go back to work, which is kind of crazy to me because this is still going on. This virus is still affecting people. Like, we haven't found a vaccine. We have not gotten to a point where deaths are declining at a massive rate. You know, I saw an article yesterday that China and Japan are now having a spike again because they did a soft open and allowed people to start going back out. And now these people are getting sick again, or people who had already recovered from the virus have now got the virus again. But you got folks like Florida governor who's going to open the beaches back up. And South Carolina.
What is essential on the beach?
Nothing.
Okay, that's great. And y'all in whatever states with your guns, and you gonna shoot the virus? Is that what we gonna do?
Right.
Hi, y'all. I'm back. I just want to let y'all know I'm back. They tried to take a real player out the game. We were just saying some real stuff.
It was the man. It was the man. Yeah.
It was the man.
Right. So what I will say, I do believe, because I know some of us got other engagements, so we're gonna wrap up and go around and wrap up. But I agree, Candace, what you're saying. That's crazy that they're even thinking that. And again, to say the same type of student that I was then, I am now. I data dumped a whole lot of history. Don't remember a whole lot. I can remember events. I don't remember dates. Everything happened in 1776, as far as I'm concerned. But what I will say, what I do is research. And it would behoove all of us, please go back and read about the last pandemic / epidemic we had. Go back and read about the Spanish flu and see what happened in the Spanish flu. And we've made this mistake already, United States. Opened it up entirely too quick. And more of us died from Spanish flu than in the World War.
Yep.
Wow.
I'll
read it.
I would just like to ask, if we couldn't come out the last 6 weeks, what have you done in the meantime that says we can go out for the next 6 weeks?
Told everybody to wear masks. That's it.
That's it. Because in other countries, you're seeing people walking by and disinfecting everything. They're walking by with like the big.
And what chemicals are they spraying?
I haven't seen
Lysol. Look.
They like
that's
big
why we can't find it
with the bleach.
I know, right? Bleach bottles. Yeah.
Do you mix and start something? I haven't seen anyone do that on this side.
Me either. So I guess it remains to be seen.
They had to show people how to wash their hands. Why do we think that the last 6 weeks had made anyone cleaner who was not clean before that?
Hey, I said that episode 1.
He did.
So
if you didn't know how to wash your hands before.
Yeah, people go to work sick as it is because, like my dad was saying, America makes going to work like it's a moral thing. Like if you stay home from work for being sick, then you're not a good person. What?
Yeah.
So people are going to work sick, and you get the virus, and you can be asymptomatic for a long time before, and you're just out here. We're back at work. We're touching everything because some people aren't going to wear masks, some people aren't going to wear gloves, and all that, and we're still going to be infecting everybody. Like I don't understand.
And here's the sad part. When these parents go back to school, work, and find whatever childcare arrangements for their children, will our children be ready for school next year?
Right.
No.
They keep talk to their teachers. You sent them home with us as homeschoolers and teachers. Now you about to pull them out and send them back to work. Who is teaching when you do that?
Yep.
Back, like I said, just to wrap it back up into education, who is teaching now?
They're definitely going to be behind on that one. They are definitely going to be. I've seen a few memes on Facebook or whatever. It was like, you're going to get whatever lesson I teach. Like
how about this?
I
The
can't
graduating class.
Yeah.
I can only go based off of what I remember from school. Like I took civics class. We had to learn the preamble. We had to learn the Bill of Rights. Like I remember all of this. And I can give it to you the way I remembered it, but I can't give it to you the way your teacher has her curriculum to pass out to you now. And I would hope they wouldn't hold that against the students when they do get back to school in August or September, because you lost between March and June worth of education. So at this point,
and then going to back up into summer.
Right.
But then summer as well. And you already know that summer learning loss happens as well. So
there's no way to be able to grasp everything that should have been learned during that time frame. The teachers are going to have to go backwards in order to go forward, because you've already lost between March and June. And then whatever you would have lost during the summer anyway, add that to it. So the teachers can't give out any new information right now. And there's a lot of information that they would have passed out during that time frame. So now all these worksheets and these assignments and everything they're passing out or given to the students, this is just what you've already gone over, and it just kind of refreshing to be like, hey, just to make sure you don't get dumb and lose everything, here, look at this.
Right. All right, so around the room, because I know we got places to be and things to do. So around the room, Keela, what's your take? What are we supposed to do?
Oh goodness. I would say don't go out just yet. Do your own research. Unfortunately, we can't listen to the governors right now who are saying go back out. Really see how you can protect you and your family right now, because it is going to be individual. I, for one, am not going out anytime soon. I don't trust it. I don't know how they're going to protect us. And so everybody just please be safe and use a little bit of common sense right now, and not just listen to the corporations need to make sure their bottom lines are taken care of, because that's all they want to do right now. They don't have our best interest at heart.
No, they don't. Mr. Cabana, is he frozen? I thought he was just posing.
Look,
Mr. Cabana.
I would say this: tune in to Tokyo. Look, everybody, you gotta get it together and understand that common sense and wisdom is the most important weapon that you have. You have to really take the time to understand. If it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Maya Angelou said, if he tells you that he's a thief, then believe him. Right now, people are showing you that they don't know what's going on. So believe that they don't know what's going on, and you do the research that is needed to find out what you need to do in your home to be safe and to be sound.
Yes.
Agreed. Mr. Gregory?
Uh-oh, he's frozen.
No, he moved a little bit.
I just want to quote one of my favorite songs from my childhood that our kids don't get. It comes from the album of Schoolhouse Rock, and it says, "I'm just a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill." And I say that just because our kids don't have a.
Dang, everybody Wi-Fi acting crazy today.
Oh,
Look a picture they sell.
I don't know.
I was taking a screenshot. I didn't know it was that loud.
I love Schoolhouse Rock. Yes!
My
Outtake.
bad.
Outtake. Look, here he go. Now he about to see himself frozen on the same screen.
They not gonna keep me down.
Okay, so we heard you. I'm just a bill, only a bill, sitting on Capitol Hill. Okay, go ahead.
Saying, going back to it, wrapping everything up back to education. We had education around us all the time, from whether we was watching TV or we was chilling. Our kids don't have those resources anymore. And us being who we are, you know, our generations now, we need to re-implement that and help educate these children more than what we're doing. Like I said, grandmama is 35. Well, grandmama, you need to start teaching your babies. Period. And, you know, just at the end of the day, like I always say, push positivity and love, man. Period.
All right. Miss Cool Candace.
hey, so two things real quick. Back in the day, they said back in 1990 was when the U.S. Education and healthcare system was at number 6 among the world. Right now, we're at number 27. So that's a sharp decline from 1990 to 2020. So that there's a lot for us to learn if we plan on climbing our way back up. And then from the what you were mentioning earlier about the Spanish flu, I found the article that I posted back in 1918. Philadelphia prematurely ended the quarantine from the Spanish flu and threw a parade in order to boost morale for the war. 200,000 people lined the streets for the parade. It was late in September, and within 72 hours, every bed in Philadelphia's 31 hospitals was filled in the city, and ended up with 4,500 people dying from the flu or complications within a matter of days. What was that proverb that everybody said? If you don't learn from history, you're what? Doomed. Learn from your mistakes, learn from your history, wash your hands, watch children. Don't go live on Facebook and tell them to watch your kids for you. Love your people.
Right.
Do your best to teach your kids. And if you are having trouble understanding something that you do have to teach your kids, reach out to your teachers and reach out to the school and see if they would be able to assist you. There are a lot of teachers that are reaching out and that are checking on their students and doing their best to make this transition as smooth as possible, because kids can get cabin fever too.
Yeah, great. All right, y'all. So last words from Dizzy the host. So we came in talking about education and whether or not we feel we benefited from it or if it prepared us for the real world. I think across the plane, all of us said no. However, on the positive note with that, something somewhere must have gone right, because all of us on this call have made it this far in life. So I do feel that even though education did not prepare us for what we thought we should have had walking out, I think that whole school of hard knocks and them swift kicks in the butt was like, whoop, won't do that no more. Shouldn't do that no more. And I believe that our communities, our parents, some of the peers that we chose to hang around, friends, even parents of other friends of ours, all of those factors played important portions in our life to help us become the people that we are now. So let's just make sure, as not just the 5 of us on the screen, but as a community, we make sure we reach back to other folks or reach over to other folks and play that part in their lives as well. So this wraps up What You Got to Say, episode 4. Cabana's like this right now. We love y'all and have a great night. Peace.